about 4 things, 4 steps. These are the 4 steps to creating a premise, and they are the what, the who, the why, and the when. Because the single smartest thing you can do to ensure that you're writing a story that will hook a reader from the very first sentence is to start with a fully developed premise, which brings us to the what. What would happen if? But the question, even before we get there, is, okay, what is a premise exactly? What are we talking about when we talk about a premise? And the problem is that people often mistake a premise for a short synopsis of what happens in the story, as evidenced by these premise examples. Now, I called these from the web. I didn't make them up. They came from very established writers' sites, writers who are giving advice to other writers. And here they are. The Godfather. The youngest son of a mafia family takes revenge on the men who killed his brother and becomes the new Godfather. Casablanca. A tough American expatriate rediscovers an old love only to give her up so she can help her husband find the Nazis. Romeo and Juliet. Once upon a time, 2 teenagers became so distraught over their passion for each other, they killed themselves. Now, notice that these short declarative sentences simply state what happens in each story. In essence, they're a teeny tiny plot summary, and in 2 cases, they're not exactly accurate to boot. The actual premise, that is, the actual story, revolves around what said plot is going to force these familiar characters to confront, overcome, and learn in order to do the things stated here. The first spark of a good premise almost always comes in the form of a question. Think, what would happen if? So let's rewrite these synopses and turn them into the beginning of an actual premise. What would happen if the idealistic son of a ruthless mafia don vows to leave the family business? What would happen if a bitter, disillusioned expat learns that the woman he thought jilted him still loves him, but she is an integral part of her husband's work to stop the Nazis? What would happen if 2 teenagers fell madly in love and their parents forbade them ever to see each other again? This time, rather than telling us what happens, these what-ifs imply that someone's in for a bumpy night, because we're pretty sure that that idealistic son's mafia roots are not going to be so easily severed. We're pretty sure that that bitter expat is going to struggle harder than ever with the thought that he might have to give up his love yet again, and this time voluntarily. And Romeo and Juliet talk about planning for one thing to happen and something decidedly different happens instead. Did you notice that none of these what-if scenarios are neutral? All of them revolve around something unexpected that throws a monkey wrench into someone's well-laid plans. That's because the basis of every what-if question is that something out of the ordinary happens. Think a surprise, right? I've heard it said that all story can be boiled down to all is not as it seems. Surprise. That's what that small part of our brain that thinks is there to really deal with, and so that's what grabs our attention. It's a surprise that the protagonist has no choice but to deal with. Why is this such an effective way to start developing a story? Because nothing grabs our attention faster than a surprise. We're hardwired to drop everything and focus on it, the better to figure out what the hell is going on and what we should do about it. Stories, likewise. Stories grab us when they pose a question we don't know the answer to, arousing our curiosity, right? Hello, dopamine. It's that curiosity is what gives way to that good feeling that we get that keeps us reading, because it makes us wonder, how on earth will this problem resolve?